We see tons of people getting filthy rich by starting these tech startups. But now with the potential downturn, it's going to become harder for founders to survive. I know this might sound weird, but downturns are the best time to start startups. So Y Combinator was in a Wired article recently, and the title of this article is about what's disrupting the disruptors right now. Disruptors being startup founders. If you're not familiar with Y Combinator, it's a startup accelerator like Harvard, but for startups with a lower acceptance rate. Companies like Reddit, DoorDash, and Airbnb are all Y Combinator startups. The whole goal is to give companies that have a really great start an unfair advantage. So Y Combinator gives them access to resources and networking that they wouldn't otherwise have available. And it all happens here in San Francisco. Now, as someone who moved to San Francisco to work at startups, I thought that this was a really interesting idea and a really interesting article, how things are changing in the current climate. How everything's sort of on hold right now, and the things that are changing with the economy, how that is going to change the current climate, how that's going to change the current climate with tech startups. I read the article. To cut to the chase, they basically don't talk about what I wanted them to talk about. They talk about how the Accelerator program is going to an online model, which they've never done before. What do we think is actually going to happen here with the downturn that we're looking at and facing right now? So I went and did some of my own research to see if other folks are talking about this topic and to see what other people thought. I came across this article from a guy named Ryan Duffy, and he goes through the different sectors and sort of breaks them down by like winners and losers in this new world that we live in. Something he would consider winners are things like healthcare tech companies, things that are doing like telehealth, for example, or food tech startups. Think of like cloud kitchens. Actually, I wrote an entire video on cloud kitchens that I never ended up making. If you're interested in what cloud kitchens are, let me know in the comments and I will make a totally separate video on cloud kitchens specifically. Also, subscribe to my channel while I'm thinking about it. So obviously, travel and hospitality tech companies are gonna be losers here. And I used to work in hospitality tech. I already know, I'm talking to folks that I know, executives in the hospitality industry. It's not looking great right now. I mean, just look at Airbnb as an example. They just announced that they're using $250 million in cash to support Airbnb hosts during their sort of free cancellation period. I mean, $250 million is not anything to gawk at. You know, who knows what that does in terms of the future of the company. Especially when they have competitors that aren't doing those things that are now at somewhat of an advantage. Think companies like VBRO, for example. I mean, I hope a company like Airbnb can survive this. I used to work for incumbents in the hospitality industry, and I know that they always saw Airbnb as a huge threat, and now Airbnb itself is possibly going to be the one struggling. Ryan also highlights that AI tech companies and supply chain tech companies are going to do particularly well in the climate we're in right now. Specifically on the supply chain side, I can speak to that because I currently work at a supply chain tech company. And I don't think I've ever been busier than I am right now in the work from home scenario. I am working like a madman trying to get as much work as I can done, and like my email inbox is blowing up because people need our services. People are ramping up on the warehouse side and the delivery side and the shipping side, because all of those things people are depending on in this period of time. What does this mean for startup founders in general? Startup founders are very resourceful, gritty, and just tough people. And being that I moved here to San Francisco, I'm really interested to see how it changes the landscape of founders here in the city. I mean, just look at the past 10 years. It's been 10 years of a bull market. And there's so many people, myself included, who've moved here just to have our go at this and see if things can work for us here. And after 10 years, there's just a lot of noise. There's a lot of startups. It's hard to tell what startup is going to succeed and which one's going to fail when you've got hundreds upon hundreds of new startups every year, if not month. At some point, it just becomes not really possible to know who's going to succeed and who's going to close their doors next quarter. Thanks to startups like Cruise that got bought by GM after a few years of being in business for $1 billion, we see tons of people getting filthy rich and successful, whichever you value more, by starting these tech startups, oftentimes here in San Francisco. And then the perception is that they are just set for life now. And that's a very attractive prospect. This city is full of ambitious people that I am sure have that sort of thing in mind. But now with the potential downturn, venture capital and investment money is going to dry up. People are going to take fewer risks on fewer startups. It's going to become harder for founders to survive. I know this might sound weird, but downturns are the best time to start startups. There's less noise, there's less distractions. You can go and build something super, super valuable because you don't have to compare yourself to so many other startups out there. It really acts as sort of a way to groom only the best, most valuable startups. So you fail faster because you really can't survive in a downturn climate or in a recession if your startup is faulty in any way. Actually, it helps you out a little bit because you know quicker if what you're doing is actually going to work in the long run. I'm excited to see what problems get solved, because the problems that are going to get solved in this downturn and recession are problems that are super urgent, they're super important, and I get to be here while that's all happening. I just can't wait to see what happens next. Founders here are going to go from a perspective of here to make a ton of money to here because they're on a mission to solve a problem. They're going to do it with or without investment. And that's the startup environment that I moved here for. And the folks who moved here for the get rich quick sort of mentality, they're going to find themselves not thinking about it being important to be here anymore. And that's okay. It's okay to learn that this wasn't for you. I'm in my own process here in terms of, oh my God, Kuna, look at him. He's literally crawling under the TV console right now. Hey, bub. I just feel like San Francisco is a great place to be right now if you're into tech startups, and I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to see what the next couple of years turns out to be like in the downturn. Let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did you like this video? Do you like me sitting on the floor? Who knows? Hit the like button, and I'll see you later. Love you.